Would please join us at the Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting. Tracy, would you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Frank.
Let us join in prayer. God of heaven and earth, thank you for the blessing of this day, for the breath of life, and for the hope in times that can seem difficult. We pray for your blessing on these gathered here to do the work of the city of Guthrie. Give them strength and wisdom to lead well and to make decisions that will benefit the people of this community according to your purposes. In the Bible, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities since you have placed them to promote peace and order and justice. I pray for our mayor, for our city officials, and for the council assembled here. Bring discernment, harmony, and joy to this meeting. Amen.
Amen. Amen. With that, that's our call to order. Public comments. It looks like Patty Hazelwood would like to speak with us on erosion at Lake Guthrie. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things.
Okay, go right ahead.
Real quickly, on Lake Guthrie, we have an erosion problem out there pretty bad. As you come across the dam and where the place where you used to pay for your fishing license and stuff and on down, that's completely dug out by big trucks. It's been washed out by the big rains we've had. If we act now and put grass seed down or possibly even sod or dirt to fill in where it's been dug out, we could stop the erosion. As you come around east around Lakeshore Drive, you will see the erosion in front of my house. It's just god awful. It's fallen off into the lake. It's so bad. And my suggestion is, I don't know who handles this, but they need to go out and look at it and make a determination how we can stop the erosion. And I'm willing to donate money for the seed or dirt to help stop it because it's really bad out there. Now, my second thing I wanted to talk to you about was the 4th of July. And I understand why the city wants to sell permits and make money. The problem, the last few years, they've come to Lakeshore Drive. They've left their fireworks behind. They didn't live on Lakeshore Drive. They said they had a permit, and the police went right on. If you're going to fire your fireworks, stay at home and do it with a permit. If you're in the historic district, you can't do it. My suggestion is that we go to Lake Liberty. There's no houses out there or anything. There's campgrounds. There's plenty of room. We could move the 4th of July celebration for the city of Guthrie to Lake Liberty. We could have the police out there, the firemen to make food, hamburgers and stuff, to raise money for the city. Now that's my suggestion, to get it off of Lakeshore Drive. Because what we've suffered out there the last 3 years, we've had cannons going off and bombs, and they leave all this material behind. And the people on Lakeshore Drive are sick of it. And I'm sure that you didn't think about what was going on Lakeshore Drive when you allowed the 4th of July permits. The permits are fine, but let's get them out of Lakeshore Drive, put them on Lake Liberty where there's no houses, and people could assemble for the 4th of July and have a great time. And we may draw people from all over to come to Lake Liberty for that. But that's my suggestion. The final thing I just wanted to mention was, in 2016, the people of Guthrie voted to require a vote of the people before increasing water rates or utilities. A lot of the people that live in Guthrie feel like they've been ignored. And all I'm asking you to do is to consider that you ignored what the people voted for in 2016. And that was not to raise any utility rates without a vote of the people. I just think it's real sad that it came out like that. I think both parties could work together with the city, and we could learn how to not ignore the people of Guthrie, especially when they voted on an election and required the vote of the people to do it, to raise the utility rates. I don't have the answers for it, but I think it's something we ought to have a committee formed and work on so both sides of the fence can come together and make this better. A lot of the people feel like we, the people, they want to make a change. Well, firing all of you guys and removing you from office is not going to make a good change. What's going to make a good change is the city council works with the people of Guthrie to come to an agreement that we could all live with. And thank you for your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty. Jean Lucina, is that correct? Did I say that right? And also about the 4th of July.
Yes, I have talked to the city manager, and he listened to me. He didn't hang up on me. I didn't use any bad language. I just told him, I said, we really have a terrible time. And it's just not my husband and I. We're old. There's a lot of us old. But last year was frightening. They were not shooting your Class C that you all have on the permit. We've read that permit over and over. They were shooting things that go straight up in the air. It's like a bomb. Our houses were shaking. Now, and I've talked to many neighbors. They said my house was shaking, and it was over and over and over. There were young ones, and we're right on Lake Shore. A lot of people out, not just Lake Shore. There's others that are not happy with this. They come across Lake Shore Drive. We're over here. That's our residential private they're over here in public land. They're shooting those fireworks right there. We called the police. We hollered at them first. Well, they told us what we could do with our complaint. That was it. And I called the police, and I said, they're shooting things that are making our house shake. Our dogs are going crazy. Now, I don't know how many people care about how dogs go crazy, but they do. Anyway, nothing happened. Well, they're still going off like crazy. And I called, and I said, they're still shooting those out. Oh, well, they told them they had permits. I drove around the next day. Who had permits that would do this? One of my neighbors did. I called him up and said, I don't appreciate what you did to us last night. It was Greg Gummerson. And he said, who is this? I didn't do anything. I said, yes, you were shooting off. You had permits, and you were shooting off those fireworks. They're not legal. He said, that wasn't me. I said, well, they told the cops that they were working with your permit. So we've got to do something. We've got a lady that's been housebound, bedbound. She is so dreading the 4th of July. I used to I hate fireworks. Kids never had them. And they'd say, everybody else has fireworks. I said, well, that's just too bad, just live like that. Well, we were in Edmond. The kids burned their own house down. Fortunately, they burned their own house. And I told my kids, yeah, see what happens. Well, they were shooting off bottle rockets. Things that are illegal. I know on your permits, my husband read it over. He was with FAA, read a lot of permits of things. And you've got everything on there that if it was done right, could work. But they're not, and I don't care, even if they had no permit, those people are coming. And they're standing across the street from us, and they're shooting off these bombs. And Patty and I went around, like I said, I looked for who had permits, not very many. There was a trash can full. We saw the boxes. They were containers, not anything you all approved. It was frightening. And you worry about your house is burning. I know they can't shoot any of it. You can't get a permit in the historical district. That's great. We've seen Guthrie burn downtown. It's not pretty. We don't want that. That's not what we're trying to stop. And I know you want to make money, $15. I don't know how many you sell. I've been on many committees. James Long, you were so young. We got diplomas. My husband and I came, we all had, remember? Oh, we traveled all over. We had ceremony, we got diplomas, and we were all helping Guthrie, volunteers. I know money's needed. I always need money. Towns always need money. And I don't even know if you stop selling the dang permit. It's still not going to stop. These bozos that come out there and think, we're going to go to Guthrie Lake and we'll just shoot off whatever we want. I'm sorry that, that's my complaint that I've got to have, but I feel like you need to know we are really suffering. I hate to think of the 4th of July. And we could leave. Well, then you worry you burn their dang house down. Or were they going to break in? And maybe I'm running out of time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, take care of that. Community outfit recognitions, no. Consent agenda, A, approve the minutes of Public Works Authority meeting held on June 1 of 2021. B, approve the construction materials testing and inspection services for wastewater treatment plant improvements, proposal number OCP-21091 with Midwest Engineering and Testing Corporation in the sum of $65,000. Let's consider a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, or is there any discussion? All those in favor? I guess we're voting with buttons now?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor, signify the same by voting. So I guess I don't know how to do this.
Gotta push the button, Jim.
Huh?
Gotta push the button.
Well, I understand I've got to push the button, but, all right, is everybody in?
All votes are in.
All right, let's hear it. Unanimous. Discussion and possible action on appointment of the GPWA Citizens Rate and Fee Advisory Committee. Leroy, do you want to take that?
I sent you a list of who was on there before, whose terms were up, because their terms are the same as the city council member that appoints them. And so every 4 years, 3 councilmen either reappoint or appoint new, and the mayor's term's only for 2 years, so his appointment is only good for 2 years. In your agenda packet, we have recommendations from Councilmember Williams, Danny White, and Mayor Gitling has proposed reappointing Casey Griffith for 2 years through May 1st, 2023. And Councilmember Bothroyd has proposed Chris Evans through May 1st, 2023, because his position that he appoints was vacant. And then Matthew Crum and Greg Gummerson would continue the 2023 because they were appointed by Councilmember Long and Channel respectively. At the time I put the agenda packet together, I know Councilmember Case or Vice Mayor Case was going to visit with his person to see if they want to be reappointed. That name could be added to this list tonight, and I've not heard from Councilmember Taylor if he has a name that can be added tonight, or it can be done at a future meeting, if you're not ready to name someone tonight.
I'll check with them tonight and see.
Before we get too excited about these appointments, y'all need to think about this. The Rate and Fee Committee is an advisory committee. They don't, all they're gonna do is look at it and say, well, we think you should do this, and we think you should do that. How many of you come in here griping about some other advisory committee because it's been tied up bouncing around through them before it ever gets to us, and we can't get any business done on it because we're waiting on the advisory committee? And not that there's anything wrong with any of these people we're talking about putting on there, but if you look at this and say they meet and they have several meetings and discuss options and all of that, and they put all their work and time into it, and then they come to us and say, well, we think you should do this. And when they set it down in front of us, we say, we think you're crazy, we're gonna do this over here. Well, what did you do? All you did was humiliate the people that you put on that committee, because they spend all their time and all their efforts trying to get something done, and then we turn and do something else. And I'm of the opinion that's something we should be doing anyway, and I know some of you will think, well, we need some outside input. If you talk to 5 or 6 people we'll have more outside input than the 5 or 6 people we put on that commission, because if there's 7 of us here, we each talk to 5 or 6 people, 35 or 40 people, as opposed to those 5 or 6. I think it's a waste of time with the appointing this. It just adds another layer of bureaucracy to even do this, and we need to take care of the job that we're supposed to do and not make it a burden on somebody else. There might be a time on down the road where we get bigger or a lot more things that we need somebody to do, but for my part, I'd make a motion to table appointing these people, and we just get our options on any rates from the staff and decide as a unit. So,
I will say in the last 2 years, the committee has not met one single time.
No,
I know the person
it's
I
been several.
appointed.
10 years.
I know the person I appointed said,
Originally, I think it came about when Patty was still around because of the water rates. Is
Well,
the reason that all started. Was
2010, it was-
Public involvement in that.
It was created in 2010.
Part of it, I agree to an extent, because I didn't create this committee, okay? But every committee that this city has is an advisory committee, every one of them. And they're all in place. So it's not, I don't agree that it's a waste of time. I think that if we're gonna do something like this, like you and I were talking, that, you know, the members of the finance committee, which happens to be me, James, and, who else is on it? Tracy. Should be in those meetings with this group if we're gonna put this group in play. That's just my opinion. So that, you know, we're apprised of everything they're discussing, they're going through everything else. But every board in this town is an advisory committee,
Well, I know that.
so. And this was put in play before us. I didn't do it. We don't have to do it.
But
That's just like saying we're not gonna appoint for HP. You know?
Well, this committee hasn't met for years,
I understand.
and we have no permanent members, and there
This
has
is
not
true.
been a need for them, and basically, all we're doing is telling them, come and waste your time, because we're gonna decide it anyway if you don't come up with what we like. So, that's I wouldn't be on, you know.
But it's the same on every board that we have.
And like I said, half of the boards, when we come in here,
It's a waste of time.
somebody's complaining about it because it has to go there first. And I don't blame the people on the board. They spend their time and they come up with the advice. And then it comes to us, we don't like it, well, we lop it off and do what we want to anyway. So, to me, you're just setting them up to fail.
I think most of the time we don't do it that way, though, Don. I think most of the time we do accept what their advice is. We've tried to utilize those people and utilize the information.
So long as they come up with what we like.
Well, 99% of the time, it's something that we can accept anyway.
Well, but a lot of the reason that this board hasn't met is because there hadn't been anything to meet on. But now there is.
Well, I assume that's the reason this has gotten brought up, is that correct?
Well, yeah.
Each election cycle it comes up, it came up 2 years ago when we had elections, so it comes up automatically because it's time for reappointment for the board is why it came up.
I would have a question. I mean, I don't particularly like the word a waste of time because I appreciate, at least the one that I appointed was eager to serve and intelligent person and willing and eager to be a part of the system in any way they can. And so I don't necessarily see it as a waste of their time, and they don't either, at least from what I understand. And I appreciate their willingness to do that. My question is, and I couldn't tell him, is what is their role? Where are they going to get their information? What are they going to look at to come up with an opinion to give us? I don't know.
Well, they're gonna have to get it from Leroy.
I mean,
Right.
I'll get to do my PowerPoints again.
They're gonna go through exactly what we went through.
well, and this is where I would agree with Don in saying that they're going to look at the same information we get and come to a conclusion, and we'll either agree or disagree with them. So in the end, the buck still stops here.
Yeah, it always
But it does
will.
with all of our committees.
Sure, certainly.
It's the
I'm
same
not
with
against
all.
it. I think it's always good to get another opinion, get another set of eyes on something. It could certainly change my attitude and perspective. It has many times. So from that vantage point, I'm not against it. But it certainly has to be done in a proper amount of time, not lingering, and if it comes down to this committee inability to meet or come together or come to a conclusion, we can't drag out our decisions based on it, right?
Yep.
It has to come down to, we're gonna make a decision by this time, irregardless. But I'm not against it. I'm not necessarily for it. We're gonna make the decision one way or another, and it's gonna be off the same information, but another set of eyes on it doesn't necessarily hurt.
You know, another thing, when we had the meeting, we said either it'll go to the finance committee or the rate and fee committee. I don't know that we definitively said it's gonna go to the rate and fee committee. I don't know that that ruling's ever been made through this board here. You know, do we want it to go to the finance committee? And if they can't come to some kind of agreement on it, then go to the rate and fee committee? That doesn't make sense. The finance committee is comprised of councils
of us, yes.
you know, and we've proved that no matter how many meetings, we can come to consensus in those meetings, just on doing zoning, for example.
Well, if we have people that are eager to serve on this particular committee, we have boards that we are recycling people on
I know.
and can't get people to go on. Maybe we need to talk about the other opportunities that the mayor appoints typically, that we're just recycling the same people over and over again. And these people haven't met in a decade.
Literally.
Why even have it? Why even have it? If they haven't even met in a decade, let's ask them to serve in something that meets on a routine basis. I mean, we have a planning commission, we have an HP commission, we have a parks board. I mean, we can't get people to serve on those. I don't know what else there is that people aren't serving on, but I do know we're recycling people.
So right now I have, I think, a motion to table.
I'll second.
Well, wait, before we table, what can the motion be on this thing? I mean, if we're gonna dissolve the rate and fee committee, you know, why table it?
Well,
Just dissolve
to
it.
decide whether or not.
You know, dissolve it. We're gonna dissolve
Well,
it,
on the
dissolve it.
agenda, it was discussion to appoint.
Right,
So I made the motion.
So if we table-
To table appointing
Okay.
anybody.
okay.
There was nothing on the agenda about dissolving it.
That's what I was looking, what the actual
All right, so
motion was.
your motion is to table any appointments tonight. Is that correct?
For that committee.
For this committee?
Yep.
And
I
James has
second
given
this.
us a second. Is there any other discussion? Well, let's see your votes, guys.
All votes are in.
Unanimous. All right, with that, we are adjourned and move now to our city council meeting. Call to order consent agenda, approve the, let's see. We're gonna remove item 2C out of this, approve the emergency management thing. We're gonna remove that part out of that, so. Approve the minutes of special city council meeting workshop held on June 1. Approve the minutes of the city council meeting held on June 1 as well. And that's it.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Place your vote.
All votes are in.
Motion carried, unanimous. Item 3, discussion review of the preliminary plans. We already removed it.
You're not on the actual page.
What?
all right. Said you're not on the
On
actual
which?
page.
On the agenda page.
Yeah.
We're taking it out altogether.
There's no action. No action.
Discussion or review of the preliminary plans to refurbish Highland Hall. Here we go. Leroy?
I'm going to make a introductory presentation, and these are preliminary plans. We have met with representative from the nutrition site and our council on aging. We wanted to show it to the city council while it's in the preliminary stages in case you all had some input. Our architect, Tony Blatt, is here tonight. After my presentation, I'll have him come up in case there's questions. But Highland Hall serves as the senior nutrition site, and that involves Sodexo is the contractor, and it is combined Logan County Council on Aging and Logan County Aging Services provides part of the funding for that. After hours, in the evenings and weekends, the facility is available to rent for meetings and special events. Just some of the history, Highland Park was established in 1890 as a natural city park, originally used for picnics, camping, and nature walks. In 1902, there were plans to make it a destination park. To draw people to the park, they added an orchestra stand, 36 square foot level dancing platform, 16 feet high refreshment stand, were all built in the park. In 1935, there was a 5-year plan with a budget of $1,500 a year. Couldn't build all these things at $1,500 a year today, could you? Projects for the park included tree and shrub planting, improving the park road, enlarging the playground equipment, installing a water system, and adding tennis courts, croquet courts, and a pool in the park. A Public Works Administration pool and bathhouse that were planned as part of this in 1930s never came about. Our pool was built later, that's in Highland Park, and the sources for this came from a site from the Historic Society, Oklahoma Landmarks Inventory. It's a one-story native sandstone building, and reading this, they thought they would have enough sandstone in the park to do it. I think they ended up going to a quarry about 15 miles away to get the stone to finish it. It was a National Youth Administration project, completed in 1940. President Roosevelt created the National Youth Administration in 1935. During its first 4 years, it was a division of the WPA, and the National Youth Administration was formed to help provide job training and employment for teenagers and young adults. The funding for this project in 2020 out of the CARES Act stimulus funding, we got $898,832. From that, we purchased a new fire pumper, and we used $422,500 of the CARES Act money, and then we got a grant from USDA, a Community Facilities Grant of $227,500. So if you take the 422 away from the 898, we have $476,322 of CARES Act money that we could spend on this project. And with the way prices are right now, it may take that full amount. We do plan, we can only apply for a USDA grant every cycle. We're going to check as we go through this, and if we have an opportunity, we will again try to apply for a USDA grant to get some grant money to go with our money for this project. 3 primary areas that we're going to be working, and this is the demolition plan. We're going to take out the restrooms and rebuild the public restrooms on the end of the dining hall. We're going to remove this existing part of the staff kitchen, and we're going to relocate it here, and I'll show you what we plan to do on the next slide. And then this is a big pool pen area for staff, and there's an office area here and bathrooms and storage that don't function very well. We plan to take that out. Then what we plan to do is redo this area, and I have larger blow-ups of these areas I'll go through in a minute. The kitchen, this part of the existing kitchen that we tear out, we're going to push it back, and in front of it have a warming kitchen. One of the biggest complaints I hear from people having special events, family reunions, there is no kitchen to use because with the federal funding, the nutrition side, when they leave, they have to lock their area down. And so there's no access to any kitchen facility. So if you have a family reunion, you can't warm anything, you can't keep things cool. So this will address that. Restrooms, are, I guess the best word for it, they're atrocious, and they need to be redone. And this area needs to be more functional. Other things, there's some drainage issues in the front we will address. There will be new paint throughout the building. We've been asked to put some additional electric outlets in the dining hall. They have music night and some other functions where they don't have enough electricity. We're going to replace select ceiling tiles. To our knowledge, the roof was replaced a few years ago, and we don't have roof leaks. Some of these are from when we had roof leaks prior to replacing the roof. There's some flooring in the kitchen that we will address, and then the hot water source for the bathrooms is remotely located. We will have a dedicated hot water tank. It takes a long time to get hot water over here, and so we will add a hot water tank source for the bathrooms. In this area, right now, when they close off the nutrition site, there's only one exit to the building, which doesn't meet code. When we do this, this hallway will open up, and there will be a second public exit to get out of the building, so we'll be in concurrence with the code. We will relocate this part of the kitchen area for the nutrition site to here. It's secured in the evenings on weekends, and we will use the existing equipment, just relocate it. The warming kitchen be available in evenings and weekends for meetings and special events. We haven't budgeted all of the individual pieces of equipment that is on the drawing, warmer, ice box, those kind of things. We're working through that budget to see what we have available. Public restrooms, handicapped accessible for men and women. And on the men's side, because this will probably predominantly be used in the evening, there will be a janitor closet that you will access this through the men's bathroom to get mops and those kind of things. And the reason we did that, there is a fireplace here. And we looked at two options, taking the fireplace out or leaving it in. And there's a fireplace at both ends of the buildings, and because of the historic nature of the building, we decided we'd leave the fireplace and just make a different access into this area. Staff area, this restrooms are used by the staff of the nutrition site. They have a little kitchen area and an office. In visiting with them, we may reconfigure this a little bit based on their input and make a unisex bathroom and use one of the areas for additional storage, was their desire. With that, Tony, if you want to come up, we'll try to answer any questions. Again, we're in the preliminary stages, but we just wanted to show it to you all to see if you had particular comments or input as we try to refine and finish the design for this project.
I was just had a question about the fireplaces. Are you required because it's historic now you keep them, or that's just aesthetic you decided to keep?
It's our option. Because it's interior. We would have the flexibility. It's not in the historic district. It is a contributed building to our historic district, but it is not inside. Mineral Wells Park is inside the historic district. Highland Park is not. But our thoughts are, because of the balance, we got a fireplace on each end, historic, it was our thought it made more sense to keep it, because we can gain access to the janitor closet a different way, and since it's primarily to be used when the building is not in function, then it would work appropriately.
in their load-bearing structurally integrity part.
Yeah, if you were to go and remove that fireplace, you'd end up needing to put some kind of a structural brace
Be
to
pretty
support it,
costly.
because you would not want to remove the chimney from the outside, and that would be affecting
So
the
they,
outside.
are they still functional, or, but you?
I don't know if they
I'm
are
sure you
being
don't intend them
used.
to be.
No, I don't think that they are.
Okay.
Yeah, they haven't used them in years, I think.
I haven't been in there since a kid, I don't even remember. And I remember a family reunion there myself. It's a cool building.
It's a cool building. Anybody else have any questions? Is that all you need?
That's all we need, and we will work with the nutrition site and Council on Aging to refine these plans, and then we'll bring them back to City Council before we put it out for bids.
All right. Item number 4, discussion and possible action to approve resolution 2021-18 nominating Leroy Alsop as a candidate for the OKMRF Board of Trustees representing District 6 for a 5-year term beginning October 21 to October of 26.
Thank you. The Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund has a trustee term that's becoming available for nomination. In order for us to nominate somebody, we have to do so through resolution, and we'd like to nominate City Manager Leroy Alsop.
Does he want it?
That's what I was just getting ready to ask.
I did ask him if he would like to, and he said yeah. So,
It was a weak moment.
So what happens with the balance of the 5-year term?
What do you mean?
he can, as a retiree, he can stay. So if he, say for example, if after his, are you asking about
That
his
answers my
3-year
question.
contract?
You've already
Okay.
answered my
All right.
question. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your vote.
Thank you.
All votes are in.
Unanimous. Item number 5, discussion of possible action to adopt ordinance number 3355 for a request for a planned unit development PUD within the R1 single-family dwelling district to allow for a development of 388 residential lots on a 90.57-acre parcel to be known as Guthrie Farms, located in northeast quarter of Section 16, Township 16, North Range 2, west of the southwest corner of Pine Street and University Avenue. The PUD includes requests for exceptions to minimum lot size, minimum lot width, setbacks, lot coverage, street right-of-way widths, and perimeter utility easement widths per PC application 21-608. Dan, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Introduction pretty much says it all there. This is a planned unit development. It's over there off of, again, on where the University Avenue alignment is. It's only physically on one side in Pine Street, kind of in the southeastern part of the community. It's a 90.57 acre parcel they're using. There's some other land around it that is not going to be the final parcel for that area. As again indicated, this is a planned unit development. There are some exceptions. I'm going to go over some of the highlights because there was a couple things that transpired with this. It's gone to the Planning Commission a couple times, but the applicant is here and they'll probably be more apt to not only give you the information, but you may have questions of them. So this originally went to the Planning Commission May 13th. The original proposal had 462 lots. In that, and the lots, some of the proposed lots were a minimum of 35-foot wide. Our code minimum is 50-foot wide, and also the minimum lot sizes in that original proposal were for 4,025 square feet for the smallest lots. The Planning Commission recommended that the exceptions for lot width not be allowed. They did allow for the lot sizes to be a little bit smaller, to be down to 5,750, but wanted all the lots to be a minimum of 50-foot wide. After that meeting, the applicant decided it was probably best to kind of analyze the project and decided to do a revised plan. That revised plan went to the Planning Commission this last Thursday, and the Planning Commission still held that they want all of the lots to be 50-foot wide. In that the other exceptions they didn't have an issue with, which is front setbacks, lot coverage, the street rights-of-way, and the perimeter utility easement. Those were also similar exceptions that were granted in a recent PUD by Mission Hills. I'm just going to go over a couple things with that. Again, the original proposal had a number of 35-foot wide lots. The current proposal, the smallest lot widths would be 40, and they'd be 40 by 120, so they'd be a 4,800 square foot lot. There's about 184 of those that are proposed, which is about 47% of the total lots in the development. And then they have around 45 lots, anywhere from 40 to 44 feet in width by 120, so they vary from 5,280 square feet to 5,700 square feet, and that's about 12% of the development. And then 159 lots will meet code minimum, which is 50 by 120, 6,000 square feet. And that encompasses about 159 lots. Staff had recommended approval of the current version. With the initial version, or the initial plan, there was even concern on the staff's point as far as 35-foot wide lots. But going to 40-foot wide lots does help in that. And I will say that, you know, a 30-foot wide buildable area is better than a 25. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it is when you're looking at development and even kind of a character of an area. So one of the other things that came about in the first round that didn't come about in the second round was the Planning Commission and staff was looking to have a third entrance that wasn't off of Pine Street. With the revised plan, the reduction of lots, since it went from 462 to 388, staff felt, and even the Planning Commission felt, that that third entrance that wasn't on Pine Street was not as necessary as previously, given the reduction in lots. And I even had discussions with our fire chief about what he felt, and he had the same opinion as staff. In a perfect world, yeah, another one would be great, but it wasn't anything that at this point we were going to push for, given some of the development constraints and, again, the reduction in lots. So with that, the planning, or the city council, can obviously take the recommendation of the Planning Commission, which you had in your staff report. You could look to take the recommendation of staff, which would be consistent with the plan they're proposing, or make modifications in any realm that you feel would be a benefit to the community. And with that, one thing I would like to note is that in the ordinance that is proposed, it does have the information or conditions relative to the staff recommendation. So if there is another recommendation taken, please make sure that in the motion it has a requirement to change the ordinance accordingly, depending on how we go. And we can discuss that as we go. So with that, staff will leave it to the council if you have any questions of me. If not, like I said, the applicant is here, the engineer, as well as the applicant, Mason Schwartz and Brad Reed are here. So if you have any questions of them.
Okay.
And I'm sure they'll have a little presentation.
But planning's only objection was the width?
Yeah, they wanted to have the entire development 50-foot wide minimum lots. They were willing to give a little bit less on the lot size in that, so like a 50 by 115 in that regard, which comes to around 5,750, but they wanted the entire development to be 50.
But they didn't agree with the final lot size proposed either, though.
But staff does, including yourself.
Correct.
No, right,
Well,
yeah.
staff,
Right.
planning staff.
Yeah,
Planning staff.
yeah, correct.
I haven't spoken yet.
But you're gonna.
Now's your turn.
Yeah, you're right.
Of course, what planning staff or planning commission had two exceptions that they didn't agree with. And that was minimum lot size and minimum lot width. The developer redid their drawings and modified it to some, increased the lot size, and the and the lot width, but still not to the point that it was approved by the planning commission or recommended by them. Planning staff has recommended, and it's in the ordinance, approving the exceptions requested by the developer. So if you pass the ordinance as written, it's the way the developer presented it, not the way it was recommended by planning commission. As far as, they've got a mix where, as Dan indicated, 184 lots will be 40 feet, 45 of them 44 feet wide, and then the balance, 159, will be 50 feet, which is minimum by our code. So if you have a 40-foot wide lot, then you got to take out 5 feet on each side for side setback. So your lot, the buildable, would be down to 30 feet. So now you got to put a garage somewhere, so it's going to be in the front. So what I asked is for the developer to bring some sample site plan of what their typical model house would look like on a 40-foot lot, so we could see that as part of our discussion. I don't think this particular neighborhood is going to impact other neighborhoods. And if there's a market for those size lots and that type of development, what is it us to tell them they can't develop it? I mean, it's their investment and they will either sell them or they won't. And it's not like Mission Hills we talked about, where you had a subdivision that was already half built and you were going to do the second phase, and it made some sense those ought to complement each other. This one is a standalone, so I think we have some freedom to allow the developer to try to provide houses that serve different markets. But I still would like to kind of see what the model house looks like before you approve it.
All right.
And your name again?
Mason Schwartz, 522 Colcord Drive. You probably had my partner come up here for the Ideal Homes case recently, David Box, and I think he's on the application as well. But I did do the planning commission hearings for this case. And while we're on that subject, I just want to make a note about that. We submitted the original PUD application. Staff had requested certain exceptions to it. As specifically requested by staff, it was not going to be feasible from a number standpoint. The way that the lots would work out, it undermined the feasibility of the project. But we did feel like there was space to go back to the drawing board, which is what we did. We got to a place where we significantly reduced the lot count. Over 70 of the 400 plus lots were reduced. Made other tweaks that I'm going to let Brad Reed get into the engineer here in a bit. But ultimately, staff was on board with what we presented to the Planning Commission the second time around, which was last Thursday. However, last Thursday, there were only 3 Planning Commission members here. The 2 that voted no specifically made it clear that they were just not coming off 50-foot lots as a matter of principle. We did have 1 vote flip. The chairman did vote in favor of our proposal. So it was a 2-to-1 vote. I don't necessarily believe it was fully representative of a full planning commission, but just for that information, take it what you will. Let me backtrack and get into a little bit of this project. I don't want to take too much of your time. Staff does a really good job recapping this, but I want to say a few words, have Brad say a few words as well, and then certainly take questions. The current zoning of this property is R1. What R1 allows for is 6,000 square foot lots at maximum lot coverage of 25%. So that is 1,500 square foot maximum home size. And it allows for 7.2 plus units per acre. That is the density that single family R1 currently zoned on this property allows. The problem is that those codes and those dimensions are a bit outdated with the current market. And I think that what you have today is a good opportunity, similar to what you had with Ideal Homes, for a reputable home builder to come in to this market and invest in the community of Guthrie. And what home builders like this one have determined with the market recently is what people want, what the demand is now, is more square footage of the home and less lot size. And so it's simply not compatible. You're never going to get these new, modern, marketable developments that are compatible with the old way of doing the code dimensions. And so I know staff characterize these as exceptions to the code, but I'll take the exception with the nomenclature there a bit, because the exceptions to zoning code variants are done through variances. Those are done through a board of adjustment. This is a rezoning, and this is specifically what the PUD process is for, is to go through and customize these different regulations for the zoning of a property. And so it's, perhaps think of them as exceptions, perhaps don't think of them as exceptions. But it's important to note that it's its own zoning, it's its own PUD, it's a custom zoning package for the property, and it's not quite the same as going to a board of adjustment and asking them to give a waiver or a variance to a code. And we think this is a really good example of what the PUD process does well, which is come before the Planning Commission, come before staff, hear the concerns, go back to the drawing board, negotiate, try to come to a spot that works for everybody. And I think this developer, and you see it with Ideal Homes as well, have the same market data. This developer is selling over 5,000 homes per year. They're not in the business of building homes that don't sell. And so this market trend of bigger homes, smaller lots, it serves a number of different demographics. Younger folks like myself, first, second-time homeowners tend to want that. It is a generational thing. And you go generation up, and a lot of folks that are beginning to retire like the low maintenance as well. And they like the community feel that comes with it. And some of these more compact lots that are allowing developments to do more open space and community-based activities like we talked about previously with the Ideal Homes case. So we came in here, we filed a PUD. What we have now before this city council is what staff agrees with, which is 4.2 units per acre. And so that is not quite, but almost half of what's currently allowed in terms of unit density per acre. What you get here is you get bigger homes because the lot coverage is bigger than what's currently allowed. You're allowed to go above 1,500, but you get less homes over the course of the entire acreage. It's less density. And we believe that's the kind of development that not only the market wants, but I think it's good for Guthrie as well, and it's good for any community of this size looking for affordable quality housing, especially from a reputable home builder that is not going to come in here and go belly up, which we see previously with the property we dealt with on the last PUD. And so the piece the Planning Commission did was, again, they had two members that wanted to stick to the 50-foot lots. It's not a principal thing. We're not just trying to haggle over numbers. If we could make the 50-foot lots work with the numbers in this property, we would do that. But it does create the feasibility issue where the numbers don't work anymore. And so that's where we are. I think we've shown a lot of good faith in coming in through and making the negotiations and the tweaks to this to try to make this work. I do want to let Mr. Bradbury talk a little bit about those because he's the one that actually did legwork in putting those together. I will finish up with a few more remarks and take questions. Brad?
Good evening, Brad Reed. I think the pictures kind of speaks pretty well, so you guys can see this. This is a similar layout to what we brought forward the first time. This center section, we had 35-foot lots. We have 40s and 40s. What we've done is change those to 50s, 40s and 45s, and 50s. Again, reducing the total numbers that we had. What this does allow us to do, though, is we leave these large areas. There's swaths of trees that come through here. We're able to leave those. There's some other green space and common area that's going to be in there. So we allow that. As mentioned prior, it's a little tough to see, sorry, but so what we have here is it's the same square footage on a house of two different house plans. Both of these houses are 1,460 square feet. So basically what this does, we've requested that 5-foot further setback, 25 to 20, to allow us to push forward to the street. What this does is we do get narrower, but we get a little bit longer. This still leaves about a 30-foot backyard, you get a 20-foot front yard, and you're able to squeeze the house and kind of make it narrower instead of wider. Still get the same square footage. This is actually a 4-bedroom where this is a 3. And so, but as your city manager had stated, he wanted to see kind of what we were, what the idea was of these 40-foot lots. As Mason had mentioned, we're we're building a lot of these for this developer, this home builder. And so that's kind of the market that they've seen. That's what they're seeing push to. But, we see, so we have the 50-foot lots on the outside. We've lowered our density down. If you have any other questions on that, I'd be happy to answer those.
So what's the average square foot in the neighborhood?
I don't know what that would be.
Because I heard him mention you got to stick with 1,500 square feet if we're going to go with our old zoning codes, but that you wanted to build bigger homes. But you're mentioning 1,400 and some square feet.
So that would be, I think 1,500 actually goes with garage too. So you have to take about 800 foot off of that. That 25% building lot coverage is actually pretty small. So I think that'd put you about 800 feet, 900 feet for a house if you had a 2-car garage, which all of these would have. I think that the lots.
So 20-some hundred square feet, is that what we're looking at?
So they can do a 2,000 like a 2,000 square foot house on a 2-story with those. Again, market demands, 2 stories are kind of going away, as Mason had mentioned.
Right.
This is, small families, small children, empty nesters. You don't see people as they retire to want the 2-story, so we have seen a push away from that. But the 2-story would allow, I think it's up to 2,400 to have a 2-story that will allow that. But I would say it's 1,200 to 1,600 for the 40-foot lots.
Yeah, so on the old code, right, and I'm just trying to get this clear in my head, you said that, you're allowed 7 homes per acre and that it would be 1,500 square foot homes, basically. But now we're looking at the same amount of homes, but we're looking at 4 homes per acre. Is that right?
So what we do have is we have these large common areas, as I mentioned.
Maybe that's fine.
We could come through and we could channelize this. We could go through, and there's some floodplain up here that we couldn't touch. It's FEMA regulated on the top. But these are small drainage ways. We could channelize those. We could get aggressive on those. We could put them in pipes. We could do some things to allow for that. But so we do have some. I think overall we have 23 acres of common area on the site.
So the variances we're talking about are to incorporate the green space, basically.
Some of yes.
But what I'm understanding too is those houses are for the smaller, the 40-foot lots, so they've got some that are larger, 50
Correct.
feet.
So the 40-foot lots, 1,400, that's
what it'd be on
not quite half of, and that's a hard limit. Again, this is part of the PUD process. What's good about it is we can make these limitations, and the other thing that you can codify into the PUD is that green space. And so that's how it ends up shaking out to where you only have, I think it's 4-something units per acre as opposed to the 7. But the standard green space regulations would certainly not require 23 acres, I believe it is, of the 90. I mean, I could be wrong, let staff correct if I am. But this, again, the good part about the PUD is you're allowed to codify that in there and commit to it, and commit to this particular plan. But it's platting the property.
Right. So what's the average price going to be? Do we know the average price point?
So we've seen a pretty big shift in home prices. It's as mentioned with your
everything else,
thing here earlier. These will be starter homes, so that number is don't hold me to this. It's 160 to 200 would be my estimation, but that price has been changing with lumber. But what they do is and this is another reason for some of this is economy of scale. So we're able to go in here if we can add 25, 30 lots by reducing the lot size to this. We can say, all right, here's $4,500 in just lot cost. It doesn't have to come in. That obviously is given to the end user by the end if they can come in here and shave that off. They can keep that price low, and then they can come in and they can pour 10 foundations at a time. They can do economy of scale to allow for some of this, so you can keep your price point lower with a development like this.
And commit to the green space. I mean, at the risk of me selling it and another non-national builder developer coming in and they end up phasing it off and selling parts of it, and it gets developed in a fragmented way. That's how you end up not getting the kind of green space over the course of the 90 acres, is when you start doing multiple developments, and some work and some don't. So I think there really is a benefit to having these kinds of companies invest in the community. It is a surety that
I like it. The only thing I don't like is the name. I feel like I'm going to have enough land for some chickens and a cow, but with Guthrie Farms. But these are smaller lots, so I'm a little.
I have no market data on the name. I can tell tell you that.
Does anybody else have any questions of these guys?
I don't.
I've got a question or two. How many additions have you done on a 40-foot lot that's 120 foot deep?
So we've actually done quite a few of these in the metro, Oklahoma City metro area. I've the latest.
How big were the
5 or
houses
6.
there?
They're the same product.
If you would,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
you'll have to fill out a comment form to be able to speak to council, okay? I don't mean to be rude to you, that's just the way it is. Okay, all right, so does anybody have any more questions of these two gentlemen?
Well, I'll ask this question for him. It sounds like he's just wanting to know what other developments do you have currently that are with the lot width of the 40 feet?
Yeah, so we have Redstone Ranch. It's on Britton and Mustang in Oklahoma City. It's a 320-acre site. We've developed, we have a plan for about 140 acres of that. We got one, Hefner Crossing, it's a Hefner and Kelly in Oklahoma City area, almost Edmond, which is 160 acres. Very similar thing. We had a large common area in the middle, so our density wasn't, super high. We had these large common areas, but in the areas that we do develop in, we get the density there. Let's see, I had, I think about 2 or 3 others that are like the 40-foot lots. Again, it's this market shift that we've seen in there. Again, as Mason had mentioned, they're looking to sell 5,000 houses this year. So, but we've had 4 or 5 in the metro areas.
How long is your development gonna take on
They're
this?
out there.
I think probably,
If not,
the way we
city
are
clerk
is,
gets you
we have fantastic hospitals. I would imagine it'll take us about a year for phase 1. Again, we start to look at phase 2 pretty quickly after that. I imagine we'll move through this in 5 years or so.
hopefully lumber prices will come back down.
All right, thank you, guys, I appreciate your time.
Vice Mayor, I think the gentleman went out to fill out one of the forms so that he could ask his questions.
Okay.
He's filling it out now.
We can take a little leniency, Vice
I
Mayor.
think we can probably do that.
I would say that,
There you
based
go.
on the input,
It might not be correct, but my name's on there anyway.
I'm glad you filled that
Sit
out.
up-
I've got a
stand up
question
there.
for you, sir.
Right up there.
Tim, if you would come to the, I'd write your name and address.
My name's Tim Husky, 4514 South Division.
Okay.
You know?
Go ahead.
So you have done these lots, this size over and over again. One question I had is, like the one you was mentioning, how much money do you have to spend for water hookup in those other places like Oklahoma City you was just talking about?
You get what I answer now?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's fairly minimal in those areas. We're well aware, we're going to talk to the rural water district.
Yeah, that's what I'm aware of, is you got an extra cost here of probably $4,000 a lot.
Yeah.
So another question is, how come you don't know the size of houses you're gonna build here?
Because I'm actually the engineer, so,
Do you?
it's pretty,
This is boggling me, why don't you know the
It's
size?
a range of product, when you plot it, like
Okay.
the regulations in place, it will be a number of products ranging from 1,400.
One more question. The ones on 40-foot lots width, do they have an alley, the ones you did in Oklahoma City?
did not.
Okay. I think that's it.
All right, thank you, Tim.
Did you want to ask him something? Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask him, do you have a horse in this race, or you just?
The only thing I can think of, if the 40-foot lots are gonna have a bunch of junk, and I'm gonna build mini storage across the street. I have other reasons too. Do you want to hear them all, or?
I'm listening.
Yeah, there's other reasons. I think it'd be good for the town to have that size, affordable home, the first-time buyers and all that kind of thing.
I'm kind of tired of seeing the dude in the green tie
Yeah.
come in and bring us a bunch of starter homes every time he shows up. Next time you come back, no more of that.
And we want some acreage
We
homes.
represent a whole bunch of developers, so
4,000
you never know what I'm gonna
square
come back here in front of you with. Might not be.
Those starter homes are kind of like government subsidy homes. We got all of those, so You're gonna have to find new markets, dude.
Well, I'm going to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Yeah, because I was just going to remind, if you adopt the ordinance as it's been presented to you, it would be adopting the plan that they presented to you.
Right, which
with
is
the
what
exceptions.
planning is asking.
That is correct.
Your division is asking
Yes.
us to do is approve that, correct?
That's what staff is asking to do.
His office.
Right.
Yes. We have a motion.
I want to make sure I understand the motion.
Okay.
We're approving to allow the 40-foot lots.
That's correct.
Based on staff's recommendation.
Yes, and I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Nope.
Cast your ballots. Unanimous, it passes.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Number 6, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance number 3356, amending Guthrie Code of Ordinance, Chapter 23, telecommunications facilities, et cetera, provisions for wireless telecommunications towers and their equipment. Shelby. Dan.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We had talked before that the zoning code, we're going to be updating the telecommunications or cell tower ordinance pretty much in its entirety. However, we have a applicant who's potentially looking at a new cell tower in town, and one of the big issues we have with our current ordinance is the setbacks. It requires 100% of the tower height as a setback. So for instance, a 150-foot tower has to have a 150-foot setback from any property line. That becomes very difficult a lot of times when siting a cell tower. So one of the, or the proposed amendment would be to still say you have to have 100% setback given the height of the tower, except if you provide a engineering study that says the collapse zone is less, then that becomes your setback. So for instance, if you have a 150-foot tower and the engineering report says it can fall within a 50-foot area, 50 feet becomes your setback. So it allows more flexibility than the hard stance of the fall zone of 100% in that. And so with that,
So if
also,
it falls, it's coming mainly straight
yeah, pretty
down,
much
is what you're
collapses
saying?
on itself. Yeah.
Depending on the design.
Right, on the design. But that determines the setback versus just a, 100% of the cell tower height. So it gives more flexibility in that. But while we were doing it, we had it in there that the wireless communications, basically facilities or the part where they have all their equipment, that'll have to have a minimum of a 25-foot setback. So if they do want to put that away from the tower some, there's a minimum setback. And then also a minimum setback of 100% of the tower height if they're near a residential district. So that would then amend our code to have those. Some of the other changes will come along with the updated zoning code, but this will kind of get us down the path right now as an interim.
And so we have these wanting to come in right now?
We have one tower that's looking to come in.
Where
yes.
at?
Over by the storage unit development by the vacant property by Tractor Supply on the north side of College there.
Is it T-Mobile?
No, it's Verizon as far as I know.
Is there going to be 5G network?
That I do not know. They are going to go through the special use permit process. This is kind of the first part of it. So through that, I'll probably have more information for you in that. Plus, we'll have a site plan in that when that comes. But obviously, this is the ordinance part of it.
I'm going to make a motion to approve it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your ballots.
All votes are in.
Perfect. Thank you.
Unanimous. Number 7, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance 3357 by amending Chapter 3, Animals of the Guthrie Code of Ordinance, Animals of the Guthrie Code of Ordinances, amending Section 3.1 to include the definition of tethering, and by creating 3-52, tethering in order to prohibit the act of tethering animals within the city of Guthrie. I don't even understand that.
So basically what they're saying is you can't leave your dog out on a chain.
I have no idea what I just read. So somebody explain it to me and then we can talk
You have a
about it.
dog, he comes in.
City attorney
Can't
drafted it.
tether a dog in the city limits anymore, is that what you're saying?
Well, it's part of the proposal. So a while back, a young lady came and made a presentation to the council, asking the council to consider an ordinance prohibiting tethering. That's what this is. There's some exceptions to it, so it would prohibit tethering, but it would allow exceptions if a exception were granted by the animal control. So it's not a black and white ban on it, but it does give the animal control the authority to determine what's appropriate, what's not appropriate.
And you know, there's one thing in going, and I'm a big animal advocate, there's one thing going out with your animal and having it on a chain because it wants to run off or something while you're out there having, you know, company over and stuff because so the dog could be involved. But there's another when you're tethering it or chaining it and you're gone.
Yeah.
That's a totally different deal. You know, the dog stays outside in 100-degree heat, tipped over water.
Yeah, and scabs on it. Yeah.
So there's a line in between that that we need to figure out.
Yeah, there's a house in Hill Park, they got a pit bull that's just on a damn chain.
Yeah.
And some of them aren't even very long.
It's dragging 60 pounds of chain. All right, any discussion on this besides what we've already had?
The one thing I would make sure, we're not going to start driving the streets looking for tethered dogs. This will be more complaint-driven than us enforcing and making this the priority to look for. But when we're made aware of an animal that is being kept in an inhumane situation, this will give us the authority to take action.
Thank you, Leroy.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your ballots.
All votes are in.
Unanimous.
I hear there's a guy building a barn in Mission Hills to put them in.
Number 8, discussion and possible action on the appointment of the General Government Citizens Rate and Fee Advisory Committee. We're gonna bypass that for tonight. Number 9, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance 3358 and residency requirements for future police and fire chiefs. It looks like Councilmember Channel requested this be drafted for discussion and consideration.
All right.
That all come about when I was running for office. I think the police and the fire chief should be part of the community and they should live here. They're responsible for our safety. Their departments are the biggest departments we have. They have the most asks, ASKS, and things that they need for their departments. And I think it's only fitting that they live here and be part of the community. Now the way it's written, the ones we have currently, it doesn't affect them because they've already made their deal, but the main thing I wanted to do is get this set up so that if...
So you're talking about grandfathering existing, but mandating future.
And that's what the ordinance says in there too. It's the existing, there's not a whole lot, you know, they've already made their deal. You know, I'd hope if they move or change around, they would keep this in mind, the current ones that we have, rather than move to Timbuktu. But I just feel like they're here, they have the biggest asks for their departments, and they're part of our safety. I think they should be here and be part of the community rather than coming here and taking their check and going to Piedmont and spending it. I would rather they spend it in our area than to take off and take it somewhere else. And we looked into it at first. It took a change of the charter is what we thought, but then as Billy got to researching into it, we can do it by ordinance this way. And it's not aimed at anybody, it's just, I think this is the way it should be, and I don't think there's anybody sitting up here that wouldn't want your police chief or your fire chief to be part of the community rather than bringing one in from Piedmont or Enid or wherever every day. Just come here and clock in and then get in his car and go home.
And this can be changed by ordinance and not a vote for sure?
If you were to require them to live just inside the city limits, it would take a charter amendment.
Right.
Because there's a statute, state statute that says you can't require a city employee to live in the city limits. But the way this ordinance is written, it's a broader geographical area. It's not confining them to just the city limits, it's confining them to
2 school districts. So it's broader than that state statute, so you can do it by ordinance.
So in this case, it could be South Logan County.
It'd be Guthrie School District and Cole School District. You would have to live in those. So Billy and I looked at it. Of course, anything can be challenged in court, but we think because we provided something that doesn't limit them to just inside the city limits, it can be done by ordinance. The only downside that I see, and I don't think it outweighs the benefit that Councilman Channel has suggested, but when you advertise, if an applicant's from Grove or Altus, they're going to relocate to work here. So it really makes sense for them to move within these school boundaries. But if you got a retired captain or colonel out of the Oklahoma City or Edmond Police Department that already has a home established, his wife has a job down there already, you may not have quite as deep a pool of applicants as a result, because they may choose not to apply if they have to relocate. So you may diminish your potential pool of applicants to some degree. I'm not suggesting that outweighs the benefit of it, but that is one downside.
Isn't it better to just encourage it then? I mean, if you're gonna limit your possibility, if Don quits, dies, whatever, and we have to find another police chief.
Well,
I don't want your hands to be tied.
I
don't want your hands to be tied by this ordinance.
But I see Don's point in kind of a big way, because if, for example, if something major happened, it doesn't affect you anyway, you're already here.
No, correct.
But if something major, like for example, you call home out near Tulsa, right?
Well, I used to, yeah.
You used to. You live here now, I guess? Okay. So, but in the used to sense, then, and something happened, it would be a trek of time for that person to get here. Or just like a fire chief, if the fire chief lived in Piedmont, it'd take X amount of time to get here during a major issue. So I agree, it doesn't affect the existing, and it's only gonna affect the future. And it should be in a positive way, I think.
Well, and it's big enough, it wasn't so much my thought when doing it, that they have to live within the confines of the district. If they're in the confines of the community, because, you know, if Don wants to move out next door to Tenny and help him buck hay on the weekends, see, he can do that. So, but if he wants to live in town and not get out and have to mow his grass, he can have a concrete sidewalk for his driveway. I mean, it's whatever they want, and I don't see it as limited.
So what are we asking for, an action?
Applicants. Yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your ballot.
All votes are in.
It's unanimous. All right, city manager's report.
I have nothing additional tonight.
All righty, comments from council. Jeff?
You would go. Staff, thank you. I know some of you guys are working extra hours and doing things. I think the heads are kind of need looking into. Appreciate that, Justin.
Don?
All I got to say is Ed Stevenson railroaded me. I'm not talking about it, I'm just saying.
Brian?
I know where you can buy some good slaw.
We've got Red Brick Nights coming up this month, June 26th. Be for our first one this season. We're kind of going off of our traditional first Saturday for their first one because we're going to kick it off with our fireworks also on the 26th. So hope to see you guys out there.
Oh, I don't have a thing to say.
All right.
Well, Tracy, did I ask you if you wanted to say anything?
Don's a sore loser.
Yep.
That's all I got to say.
We already said the prayer, so you set it up. I guess that's it, guys. Good night.
You got an email, of course.
I know that.
Oklahoma. Chris, it's good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Of our